So I'm actually in the middle of a RBD to Unreal project study, so to speak. I have this higher res simulation that I had done earlier, and obviously I can't get something quite this high and heavy into the Unreal Engine. But I want to talk real quickly about some of the issues that I ran into and a solution that I came up with. So first off, I did look at the Vertex animation textures because I've worked with those in the past, and those have been really nice. So in Houdini, making sure you're in the out, I'm just going to drop down a Vertex animation texture. And so these are nice in the sense that they could give you some pretty nice results, and they give you a color map, and that just tells the vertex where they should be in space. And as I was looking at this, I looked at both the current version, and then also I want to point this out. If you right click on this and go to Actions, Change Type, and click on this, you can actually get to the different versions. So there's like version 2.1, 2.0, and then even like the original version. And so if you're having issues with the latest version, you could even come back to the original version, which I found personally fairly stable. The problem that I had with this, though, the nice thing is that it runs fairly light. But the problem that I had with it, though, is my pieces at the very beginning are slightly offset. So it didn't look good in the sense that I could see all the cracks and all the pieces before any destruction had even happened yet. So Vertex animation textures, at least for me at this point, didn't pan out for what I needed. The other thing too is the FBX, and that's running a little bit heavy. Now, granted, I can't go quite as heavy as I did for the Houdini scene and so forth. I'm having to scale that back, but I still want it to be as high resolution as possible. So I need something that runs light like the Vertex animation textures, but gave me a better RBD result. And so that's what I want to cover real quick with you guys. And so let's jump over to Maya real quick. And I'll post this script. And so what it is, I'll post this. You just want to take this script right here that I'll give you, and if we open it up here, you can. That's the code, and so it's just a little mail script. You just want to take it and go drop it in your documents for Windows, anyways. Maya, your Maya version, and then your scripts folder, and you just drop it right here. And then once inside of Maya, what you'll want to do is come down here to this little right-hand corner, that little semicolon in the bottom right-hand corner. Click that, and then you're going to want to type this, and so that will source that script for you. Now, also just FYI, if Maya was open when you dropped the script into this folder, you're going to have to reboot Maya because it doesn't know that script is in its folder until it boots up with it in there. So that's just a little FYI about that. Once you have that you in there and you've rebooted, just type this little bit of code in here, and then I put it in my rigging tab. You just highlight that, go to File, Save Script to Shelf, and then I'm calling it RBD, and then to JNTS for joints. So Rigid Body Dynamics to joints. And so you just click OK, and that'll make you that button. And so that button now will call, and I didn't make it because I already had one, but you can see like that's the same code in the button. Okay, so that essentially will grab the script. I'll post it. I think I can post it on YouTube. If not, I'll post a link to where you can find it. I'll come up with a place. But this button will do all the magic. So in Houdini, I guess we could go ahead and do this real quick. Actually, let's come back here. Let me hit Control-2 just so I can save this. And so I'll just run you guys through this really quick, how to create a basic RBD simulation, get it out, and then show you with that button how to get that set up with the joint system to run that RBD simulation. Okay, so I'm just going to click Tab, type GEO, drop that down, open that up, and then I'm going to click Tab, and I'm going to type like the pig head. So PIG, there's the pig head. Okay, tab, and I'm going to type in scatter. And I'm going to go here kind of old school on some of this stuff. Okay. I think that's a bit much, so I'm going to go down to 100 for the points. I'm going to turn the eyeball on for that, and I can see that right there. And so from here, I'm going to drop a Voronoi fracture. And honestly, we could run this through like a VDB so that we get more points in the center of all this. I'm not too worried about that right now. I just kind of want to get to the basics. So this scatter into this, the original pig head into that, and then I'll turn the eyeball on for that, and now we can see, especially if we drop down an exploded view, we can see we've got a fracture going on. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down and assemble, because we do want to do this packed. So drop down and assemble this first dot to the end dot, and we'll turn the eyeball on for that. I'm going to turn off the connect inside edges, and I'll turn on the create pack geometry. I'll keep the name attribute too. Okay, I'm going to get that selected, and I'm going to do Control C to copy it. And now I'm going to do tab again, and I'm going to type DOP, and I'm going to come down here to this dot network. And I'm going to drop that. I'm going to enter a couple times, and that'll get me in here. Okay, tab again, RBD packed object. So I just typed RBD and PE, and it can already find it right there. So I'm going to click that. And then under the stop path, since I copied that this node right here, I had that selected, and I did Control C. Now right here in the stop path, I can just do Control V as in Victor, and it'll pull that in. So if I turn the eyeball on for that, we can see that. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to jump back out to the geo real quick. Let's click back on the pig head because he's right in the middle of the ground. So let's move him up. So on the translate Y, I'm going to put that at a 2 just so he's above the ground, and he can fall and like break apart and stuff. And so that's one of the nice things about Houdini. It's non-linear, right? You can come and like change the point numbers. You can come and change all this stuff as you work. Okay, so I'm going to go back in the dot network, and now what I want to do is I want to type tab and then bullet, and I'm looking for bullet solver, and so I'll drop down a bullet solver and I'll plug that into that. Next thing I want to do is do tab and start to type merge, and I'm going to drop a merge right there, and I'll type tab and type ground. Okay, and so I want to plug the ground in first, and then I want to plug that in. Okay, and then lastly I want this to run through some gravity. So just type in gravity, plug that in, and then plug that in, and then turn the eyeball on for this last thing. I know I'm going quick, but hopefully, like if you need to rewind or anything like that, you totally can. Okay, so with this, now I can click play, and I can see I've got an RBD simulation, and there's no glue or any other constraints. I don't want to worry too much about I just want to show you like how to create something very simple and get it out over into Maya, use that little script, and then over to the Unreal Engine. So we now have this dot network. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click tab and type dot, and I'm going to go down to import, and I'm going to copy this dot network. So I'm going to select it and do Control C, click the dot import, turn the eyeball on. I'm going to come here to the dot network, and I do Control V as in Victor. So I'm going to just paste that right there. And then I'm going to change this to create points. So it's going to create points for me. Now I can see that it's creating the ground point as well. I don't necessarily want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, and this is what I want. And it's also giving me this. So I'm just going to copy this name, the RBD packed object 1. I'm just copying that text. I'm going to come back to this dot import, and then for the object mask, I'm just going to paste that name in there. And so now it's only grabbing that. With the star, it's grabbing everything. So now I've specified what I want the points for that to be. And this is very similar. If we play this, this is very similar. These points are at the center of our objects, and we can now use these points to drive our geometry. And so our joint system is going to operate very similarly to this workflow. And so right now, I'm just going to pull this to the side. And I'm going to click tab again and type in transform pieces. Okay. And I'm going to click that, click the first input, click that to the second input, and now turn the eyeball on for that. So this point data is coming in here, and now it's telling, because this right here has no simulation on it, but there's point data that's going to drive that. Now we've got it exported, and the nice thing about this is you could actually run higher res. You could type stuff on this, like you could do your RBD interior details, but not have to sim all that sort of stuff. Again, I don't want to get into all that, but that's just an FYI. But at this point, we now have all that. Let's set this to 99 and 99. And now I'm going to click tab and type null and connect that up. Turn the eyeball on for the null. Let's call this out RBD. I'm going to click C, drag that black onto that, or you could just click it. And then I'm going to click C again. I just like to color my my nulls black. So what I'm going to do, making sure that this is selected, I'm going to do Control C to copy, and I'm going to come up and up again and to out until we want to be in our out here. And I'm going to click tab and I'm going to go to labs, and what I'm looking for is this RBD to FBX. I'm going to click that. Okay. And since I copied that null, I'm just going to click here and I'm going to do Control V as in Victor. And so now I've got that into there, and I'm ready to export that. And so what I want to do, since I haven't saved this, it's going to export it to the hip. I'm going to save that really quick. Let's do this. RBD to joints. Yeah. So I'm just going to copy this file path. And you can navigate. You can come to C and navigate and find it. But sometimes I like to navigate through Windows and then just copy the path in there. And then I'll do RBD to FBX demo. Accept. Okay. And so now that hip, this right here is referring to where I saved the file, and then it's going to create an export folder for me, and then create an FBX. So I'm going to go ahead and click render, and it's going to render that out, and then we'll get it in Maya and get all that set up with the joint-based system. All right, cool. So now if I come to Maya, and I come over here, you can see there's that little export folder, and if I open that up, we can see that. If I drag and drop that into here, see that it's importing. Now, if it doesn't import for you, it's probably because you don't have FBX on, and you can get to that through Windows, Settings, and Preferences, and Plugin Manager. And then type in FBX here, and just make sure all that is checkmarked. Again, I know I'm going fast, but you can slow it down and just kind of watch again where I went to do that. So setting preferences, plugin manager, type in FBX right there. Make sure there's check marks. Okay, and then you should be able to just simply drag and drop that into your scene. I'm going to go ahead and click play, and so here we can see we have that in Maya. And so we have this working inside of Maya. But the trick now is to get this over into the Unreal Engine. And so again, I had some issues with the Vertex animation textures and also the FBX system straight in, just because that was kind of heavy. So I'm going to open all this up, and if you hold shift, you can just kind of open everything up. And so what you want to do is you want to open all this up. You want to click your very first piece, scroll all the way to the bottom, shift click that last piece. That way it just gives you a selection of everything. And then if you come to that little button that we made, that RBD to joints, and click that, that'll open up this window. Now you've got to make sure that you have all those pieces selected before you click that button. And so now once we've done that, we can click these two things. So we can click the initial setup for this, and then we can click run. And so that'll run, and it's going to make all that for us. All right, cool. And so now we can close that. There's some extra stuff that it made, like this nerve square. We'll just do that, close that. I'll put all these joints in a group, Control G. Call this joints group. All right, cool. And so now, when we imported this a second ago, these pieces actually had all the data baked on them. But now, as you see, as I click those don't have any data baked on them. It's actually the joints that have all that, and these pieces haven't been rigged to their respective joint. Also, if you ever want to just turn these down, you can shift click all this. Now, over here on the right side, making sure you're in your channel box layer editor, you could come and set this like 0.1, and it'll make that much smaller. And then you can also click this little X-ray icon if you want to see your joints. And so those joints are essentially operating like those points in Houdini now, and they're controlling where the pieces go and how they behave. So yeah, so we just essentially transferred all that data to joints and then bound the pieces to their respective joint. And so there you go. Now we just need to get this over to your Unreal Engine. So I'm going to, with these selected, and maybe I'll go ahead and just select everything. I don't know that I need to do that, but probably not a bad idea. Just get it all selected. That. Shift like that. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to come to File, and I'll go to Export Selection. And again, I want to export. I'm going to get this same file path, and I'm going to paste that there. And I'm going to do RBD, and then 2, and then JNTS. And then I'll do underscore capital PIG for the pig. And so the next thing we want to do is just make sure that this is set to FBX. And then over here, we just need to make sure that there is a check mark underneath the animation. I think the rest of this looks good. Animation, I think that's okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and click Export Selection. And there we go. And so now if I come over to here, we'll see now that we have this FBX. So this is the second one, the RBD to joints. And so from there, I can come to the Unreal Engine, open up this folder, and then I can drag and drop this into there. And we'll take a quick look at this. Skeletal mesh, yes, we want that checked. I'll click the reset to default. I think import animations, want that checked. So skeletal mesh, import animations. I think that's okay. We'll give it a shot. So we'll click import all. Close that down. And so we should have like several different ones, right? So textures or shaders that we can hook up our textures to. And then we should have the pig, we should have the physical asset and the skeleton and so forth. And here's the animation. So I'm going to drag that animation in here. Let's actually open that up. See how that's looking. Yeah, so we can see that's working out pretty well actually. I could have made this a bit bigger, but that's okay. And our pig there, and let's click on play. I think it's just tiny, that's why we're not seeing it. So we probably want to make that bigger. So let's see. I think it's just tiny, tiny, tiny over there. So I probably should have made that bigger, but I'll come over here and we'll just scale it up. I'm going to click this little lock and then I'll just type in 10. We'll do like 100. There we go. Now we can see it. And so, like with the Vertex animation textures, I got an okay result on some smaller type stuff that didn't have as much fractures, but the more fractures I had, the more offset I could see in the pieces, and it just wasn't looking real good. So I'm going to go ahead and click play, and there you go. And then we could position that so when that happens, it cracks on the floor. Yeah. So there you go. That's how you get in a. You can use that little joint system to get in a joint-based animation. And I'm not going to get into like the programming of it or anything like that at this point, but I just wanted to show you like how you could use this instead of just Vertex animation textures or just FBXs. This is another way to get that in, and so I'll get that script posted too, and hopefully you guys find that helpful.